The town of Barrows Hollow sat low and mean in a wind-swept basin, where the mountains leaned down like tired men, casting long, judging shadows over the shacks and shanties that clung to its muddy spine. Winter had arrived early that year, frost curling up windowpanes like old fingers, smoke tugging from every crooked chimney, and the sky forever gray, as if the sun had forgotten how to break through. A wagon creaked to a stop beside the general store, its wheels half sunk in slush. From its rear, a woman stepped down. Barefoot, shawled in something more memory than cloth. Her face was gaunt but young, her eyes stormy, the kind that had seen too much to widen anymore. She carried no bag, no bundle. Only 3 silver coins, tight in her palm. They said her name was Rose Bennett. 28. Widow, though the truth was grayer than that. Sold off by her mother's cousin to clear a gambling debt, like one would barter away a mule that limped. Inside the store, a back room had been cleared for quiet transactions. A stove coughed heat in one corner. 3 men leaned against the far wall, boots muddy, faces smug. One lit a match off his own tooth and said without looking up, "Reckon she's the leftover kind. Let's start at $1." Rose said nothing. She stood in the corner, eyes steady, hands clasped. She didn't cry or tremble. She didn't ask for mercy. When they asked her to turn around, she did. When one of them laughed and said he liked a quiet one, she closed her eyes like a door being shut. He had not meant to be there long. Elias Boone, mountain man, trapper, and something less than civilized. He had come down for coffee, salt, and a fresh knife. His coat was buffalo hide, his beard silver-streaked. At 40, he had the build of a man who didn't lean on anything, not even time. People said he buried a wife high in the timberline 5 years back, and never spoke her name since. He wasn't looking for company. But when he stepped through the backroom door, just to grab a box of cartridges, the silence caught him. And her voice, quiet as creek water, said, "Come with me." It wasn't to him. It wasn't to anyone. Just a whisper. Like she was asking the world to not leave her behind again. He looked at her. Really looked. The men kept jeering. $2, said one. $1.50, barked another. Hell, I'll take her if she can keep a stove burning. Elias dropped 3 silver coins onto the table. No one laughed. No one blinked. He turned and walked out. Didn't say a word. She followed, shawl clutched close. Behind them Mrs. Tabitha Griggs, who'd been sweeping the front porch, slipped a crust of bread into Rose's hand without meeting her eye. The snow had thickened. Each flake large and heavy, as if the sky had lost all its grace at once. They rode in silence, the wagon groaning beneath them, the trail winding up and out of Barrows Hollow like a scar. Elias never looked back. Rose never asked where they were going. She simply stared at the great arms of the mountain rising around them, pulling them higher with each hour. By nightfall they reached his land, a squat log cabin braced against a cliff edge, smoke already streaming from its chimney. A goat pen stood to one side, a grave on the other. No fence, no flowers. Just a wooden cross weathered pale and crooked. She didn't ask who it belonged to. She already knew. He opened the door. Let her step in first. The heat hit like a memory of kindness. She knelt beside the hearth and fed the fire with cedar splits while he set their bags down. That night, she slept by the fire on a bed of quilts. He took the chair by the door, rifle on his knee. Neither of them spoke. There was no agreement between them, no naming of roles, no claims laid. Just breath. Just the sound of wind moaning in the chimney and snow ticking softly against the shutters like fingernails of time. In the weeks that followed, they moved around each other like ghosts with matching keys. She cooked, mended, swept, carried water from the creek with steady arms. He cut wood, hunted, fixed his traps and returned in silence. Some days, they barely exchanged more than a nod. But things began to change in small, almost invisible ways. He built a stool so she wouldn't have to crouch at the hearth. She began brushing snow off his coat before he entered. When he found her fingertips cracked from cold, he left a tin of salve on the table without a word. And when she found him, one night, kneeling by the grave, hat in hand, eyes wet, She did not interrupt. Just stood beside him, her silence joining his like a second shadow. "I didn't buy you," he said once, without turning. "I know," she answered. "That's why I followed." Old Bill Harkness came down every fortnight. A trapper and widower himself, he brought coffee beans and word from town. His 8-year-old daughter, Molly, tagged along, red-cheeked and curious. "Is she a ghost wife?" the girl asked one day, watching Rose fold linens in the sun. Rose smiled. "Maybe I'm a prayer answered late." Elias overheard. And something in him cracked, just a little. The blizzard hit in mid-March. Fast and wild, like a lion through the pass. Elias had gone to check his northern line, promising he'd be back by dusk. When the light failed and the trail stayed empty, Rose lit every lantern in the cabin, then the porch, then strapped on her boots and followed his tracks into the snow. The wind howled like something ancient. Branches cracked. The cold bit like a curse. But she pressed on, lantern in hand, cloak flaring behind her like the wing of a dying bird. She found him beneath a fallen pine, leg pinned, blood dark in the snow. His eyes fluttered open when she knelt. She didn't cry, didn't scream. Just built a fire with trembling hands and stripped cloth from her only dress to bind the wound. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered. "You said you'd be back," she replied. "So I came to collect you." He smiled then. Weak. Grateful. Like someone tasting spring after forgetting what green looked like. All night she kept the fire going. Fed him broth from a flask. Spoke low and steady about her past. A preacher who promised marriage but fled when she showed, swollen with child. A baby buried under a willow before it had teeth. Years spent hiding from men who never looked her in the eye. Only at what they could take. "I ain't worth much," she said, voice barely holding. "But I know how to stay." He reached for her hand. "You're worth more than anyone's ever dared say aloud." Dawn came soft. The wind quieted. She helped him hobble home with his arms slung over her shoulders, both of them half frozen but alive. In the days that followed, she boiled herbs for his pain. He carved her a comb from pine wood. She washed his hair by firelight. He let her braid it. Neither said the word love. But it hung between them like smoke. Present. Gentle. Real. One morning, he handed her a ring, rough but warm from his pocket. Carved from the same tree that shaded Clara's grave. "I want a home again," he said. "With you in it." She didn't cry. Just nodded. They married beneath a dogwood blooming brave against the last of the snow. Old Bill read the vows. Molly scattered wildflowers. Rose wore a flour-sack dress with blue stitching. Elias tied her ribbon with hands that no longer trembled. "I didn't buy you," he whispered. "And I didn't save you," she answered. "I just stayed." Sometimes, love doesn't crash like thunder. Sometimes it moves like snowfall. Quiet, steady, reshaping the world without asking for permission. And if you ask the folks around Barrows Hollow whatever happened to that mountain man, and the woman no one wanted, they'll tell you he softened. She bloomed. And together they built something sacred. Not loud, but lasting. So now I ask you, wherever you are out there, watching from far-flung cities or quiet towns, have you ever heard a whisper in the snow? One that asked you not to leave it behind? If this tale stirred something soft in you, if you believe in love that grows like roots in hard soil, leave a word for Rose. Or for the kind of man who waits until spring to bloom again. And tell us, where in this wide old world are you watching from? Like, comment, and subscribe. More fireside stories await. The next one might just be yours.